you will then use to find patterns and gather insights. And so on these next few slides, we're going to show you how everything bubbled up to a finding. So the sticky notes represent snippets of notes and atoms from notes from the conversations that we had with the 9 Praxenters that we then take and we assemble. So I was telling Deanna as we were doing this that I wish I'd taken a screenshot of the initial appearance of this, because we did it in mural. So thanks again to Ryan for the mural assist. But at the beginning, it was just a canvas filled with all kinds of notes. And when I've done this in the real world with physical sticky notes actually on walls, the beginning is always so intimidating because you just have a mass of notes and facts and data, and there doesn't seem to be any way that is going to somehow be assembled into discrete and concrete and actionable findings. But as you start to shift things around and you start to see some commonalities between what your participants have said. One thing that you're trying to avoid when you do this is to get any one of those columns. You don't want it all to be one person, right? So if everything in that first column is I worry about the quality of my work and it's all from P1, that's not a valuable finding, right? That's just that one person. But if that column is P1 and P3 says something similar, and P4 and P7 and P8, then it's like, oh, okay, this has weight. This is significant. So as we interviewed our folks here about stress, we assembled them into the sentences that you see at the top of each column of notes. I worry about the quality of my work. I stress about interpersonal relationships. I am always stressed. That was that bubbled up in answer to the question, how often do you feel stressed? Always. Uncertainty gnaws at me. And you take all these I statements and you turn them into a we statement. So out of the thousands of notes, you get each of those I statements, and then all those I statements, we sift among those. And these particular I statements clustered into stress touches every aspect of our lives. Beep. Here we see the we statement is we struggle to fit everything in. This bubbled up from findings that came from notes that gave us the statement, I worry about the time I have to do work. Mornings and evenings for prep means unaccounted hours. And that middle column there, one thing I'll say that we found with that is that many of us aren't actually being honest about how much time we spend in a day on work. We're not thinking about what we do in the morning before we get to the office or before we sit down in our home office and open up the laptop, but that's actually part of work too. Same in the evenings when you get home. If like the thing you do after chores and putting kids to bed or whatever is to, again, crack open the laptop and even just spend a few minutes preparing for the next day, that's still work. The third statement that bubbled up to we struggle to fit everything in was work stress bleeds into my life and I worry that I'm missing out, meaning I worry that I'm missing out on the non-work aspect of my life. E. We contend with distractions. That bubbled up from several different things. Presenting is stressful. Try to turn notifications off. There's a bunch of notes related to that, as you can see. There's just, while you're in a meeting trying to present, there's a chance that you're still being distracted by your calendar and by Slack and by email and, Google Keep and reminders on your phone and all kinds of things. Many folks said they're burdened by emails. People said they're burdened by meetings. People said that clients stress me. So clients are, even though what we're here for is the work for our clients, they often end up distracting us from the work that is we're supposed to be doing for them. And so that clients end up being a major source of stress. Beep. We need focused time to feel successful. This emerged from findings related to the fact that time boxing is key when balancing projects. So for those folks who are kind of dancing around from one project to the next, from one client to the next, it is absolutely essential, they said, to place hard limits on the amount of time in any given day that they devote to a project, lest things get out of hand and get away from them. Getting into a flow helps me to get work done. Lots of folks said that is something that's key. So not only time boxing, I'm only going to spend 2 hours on this project, but reaching that, it's somewhat cliche, but I'm going to say it anyway, that Zen-like state where you're doing without thinking about what you're doing. That's how they get things done. That's when they're most effective. And one thing that's interesting here is that this is in a way, I think, related to some of the lessons we learned from watercoloring with Nick, and that you get your best results with the watercolor when you let go of your worries about focusing on what exactly it is you're doing. The amount of water on the brush and the amount of paint on the brush, and the direction of your strokes, and just kind of fall into it. Same way with the actual work that we're doing as professionals. Beep. Our weeks are front-loaded. We ask the question in the interviews about what days seem to be the most fraught and heavy with meetings. And for some folks, it was Monday, so start of the week was rough. Other folks said that it was Tuesday and Wednesday. Pretty much no one said Thursday or Friday. So that was interesting. It was pretty much universal agreement that it is the front half of the week that is the heaviest. Beep. All right, let's look at some positive things that bubbled up. It wasn't all doom and gloom in the interviews. It wasn't all, a psychotherapy session with people lying on a couch telling us, boy, doc, am I stressed? There was some good stuff that bubbled up. So we are built up by each other. That emerged from the finding that creating value for teammates and clients produces the most joy at work. So people genuinely feel happy and elated, and it's fun to do things that are meaningful, that matter to the rest of the folks on the squad, and that matter to our customers. That's a sincere, positive thing for people. Being part of a team helps me. So, yes, I need a time box. Yes, I produce a lot of good work when I am in a flow, but at the same time, that interconnectedness of interacting with other folks on the team is very impactful and a major factor in keeping one's sanity, essentially, and helping one to grow. Beep. And we do recharge our batteries. We do. It's not all, all work and no play makes us all dull children. We recharge our batteries. People relax away from work. They reserve the weekends for food, family, exercise, and sleep. And protecting off hours is key to limiting burnout. So holding that time out of the office as sacred and untouchable by work concerns is one of the strongest things, I think, to prevent one from just caving in from all the stress that we go through here doing the marvelous work that we do. Beep.
Right, so out of that, we came up with a few, maybe a little bit higher level insight or recommendations in general. So how we approach stress matters. A number of people gave their perspective on how they deal with stress. And these are a few of those ideas there. So one was to emotionally detach, right? To not get upset about what's happening. And remember that we're talking business here, so we can try and detach from the upset that comes with feeling stressed out. One tactic was to consider the worst case scenario. Okay, client's upset, this has happened. What is absolutely the worst that can happen? And think about that and realize that's not really that bad, right? It's manageable. So shouldn't be that upset about it. Look at it from another perspective. So think about how it might affect someone else, how another person on the team might look at it, how your client might look at it, how you might look at it if you were outside of work. And try to look at the problem from another perspective, and that's a way to see that, again, maybe the stressor is really not that bad. Some folks talked about separating emergencies from actual activities. So when something new pops up, it can feel really urgent and important and like you've got to address it right now, but we shan't forget about all of our other priorities. So just remembering that, yeah, this might seem like it's on fire at the moment, but there are all these other things that we still need to do. And so to try and separate that out. Just because someone says it's urgent or it's an emergency, it might not really be. You should trust in your decision making, right? We all make good decisions. We've made lots of good decisions that have gotten us to this point. And doubting your decisions in a moment when you're stressed out only makes it worse. So if you can, separate from it a little bit and know that you're going to make the right decision, just make the decision and go forward. And then always focus on the priorities. Again, whatever the stressor is, it may not really be the most important thing at the time. And if you can, outline what are your couple of things, what are the actual things that are stressing you out, and try to identify them, then you can better prioritize with your awesome decision-making skills. And we can help each other manage stress. So a lot of folks talked about the team and how you get a lot of joy from interactions with the team. So another thought here was to lean on your team and even define who's responsible for what stress. There's all kinds of different stresses, right? And we're all in this together. We all play different roles on our projects and working with our clients. So one idea that came out from folks was some folks said, I don't get stressful emails from clients because my PM, my engagement people take care of that. And in a way, I think that's kind of the way it should be, right? If you're in a very client-facing role, part of your job is to take the stress from the client. So let those folks take the stress and shield that from the team a little bit, right?
Wait a second, hold on.
Let Jeff take all the client stress and he will tell us what we need to know.
Alcohol in the fridge.
Another one is thinking about our management structure, right? Part of the role of management is to take on stress from the team so that the folks who are doing the really hard work are able to focus and get in the flow and find that place, which we shared earlier, is where we all feel most productive. So thinking about who should be taking on what stress and trying to funnel it in that way, and relying on those roles to take the right kind of stress. If you're having a challenge, sharing that with your manager and sort of giving it to them to deal with so that you can focus on what you do best. It's an idea. Another one, I think, keeping the tiny pulse. It feels good, but it also is a way of encouraging joy, right? And distracting from the stress that we feel. So we all find joy in helping each other learn and grow. And recognizing that even more often, especially if you are feeling stressed out, is a great way to sort of get out of your own head and recognize the good parts about what's happening. Some more ideas here is, know yourself, take stock in where you are, and take care of yourself. So evaluating your week, right? We saw a lot of folks have a really front-loaded week. I know I experienced this as well, and Wednesday, Thursday comes, it's like, man, am I going to make it? So make sure that you recharge so that you don't burn out. A few ideas that came out from our participants was to start earlier. A lot of folks start really early in the morning, just getting up earlier, finding that time to focus before the day starts so that you can be in your own zone, get yourself together, get your tasks in order, priorities straight. A lot of folks talked about playing board games and exercising. So, that's something that we could do more of. Maybe even together would be a fun idea. And my personal favorite here, eat better during the week. We've got to make it a priority. A number of folks said, on the weekends is when I eat. But we need to eat every day, y'all. We can't save this for the weekend, right? I know I'm bad about this. My friends ask me, Deanna, how do you stay so slim? I said, it's that stress diet. I'm not hungry during the week because I'm all stressed out. That's not healthy. Our brains need calories and especially protein to function. So, we can all remind each other to eat better, eat breakfast, eat lunch, get the calories in during the day, make it a priority because, the body runs that way. Can't just run on coffee for too long. Another big idea that came out was protecting your off hours. So really being strict about not working after hours or not working on the weekends. And if you do, count that time, right? We put a lot of effort in trying to manage our workload, and working a 40-hour work week. But if you're putting in a flat 40 hours at the office, and then an hour or two at night, and then a few hours on the weekend, that all adds up. And almost every person we talked to was not really accounting for that time. All right, so that's another way that I've experienced personally. You put in so many hours in so many different directions. It's a great way to burn out. And you know, we've got to be fresh and ready for the week. Spend more time with your family. We asked about vacations and what you do to relax, and a lot of it centered around family. But when we talked through what you do in your weekdays, there was no family. It's like, you can't forget your family during the week, right?
Ready to cook sometimes.
Right, exactly. And yeah, if you do work, just trying to count that time. I know it can be really challenging, but remembering that you know, it's going to stress us out, which means that we're not going to do our best work if we're not our best selves. So all just ideas to try and take better care. Had a couple of opportunities come up for more research. Obviously, we're not solving all the problems here today. Everyone feel like they're going to be less stressed? But there's no magic bullet. One idea is like, maybe there's a way to have like a meeting day and a no meeting day, perhaps. Maybe there's a way to have a weekly schedule to enhance focus time. We all need to focus. We have meetings all over the place all the time, and it can make it really challenging. So that's an idea. We could research into further. Communication seems like it can be improved. One idea there is determining why and when to use all of our myriad of different forms of communication, right? It's like there's stuff flying around everywhere between email and Slack and Jira and InVision and Calendar and Trello and Google Docs and all the other things that we use. And now Mural, yeah. So that would be another really interesting research project to figure out what's the right way to communicate and where. What's the level of urgency on these different platforms? What's the expected response time? Things like that. For instance, I think it's a great idea to not have email notifications on. It can be so distracting. And if you want to try to get anything done, you've got to limit the distractions. It's highly distracted by all these tools. And speaking of tools, everyone uses something different for tasks. Almost every person that we talk to uses a different method, a different tool, a different Trello, a different Google Keep. Everyone's different. And I think there's an opportunity here that we could all possibly use the same tool to streamline our efforts and reduce duplication, because most folks are taking information from all these different places and putting it in their own place, which, you know, there's just a lot of room for error there, and a lot of room for uncertainty as well. Folks talked about having different places where they track their priorities and what they need to work on now and later, and what's in their email and what's in their calendar and what's in their Trello. It's all over the place. So I think that's another area where we might be able to streamline and simplify our work lives. That's it, y'all. Thanks for listening.